Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Thanks for taking the
Good.
time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we only have a couple of you on so far, but we will get started and I will save the replay. So anyone who misses the beginning can catch up later. And as people join in, hi there, thanks for joining everybody. As people join in, it would be cool to let us know where you're joining from. And also you can put your questions down below for Katie and we will get those answered as we go along. So thanks so much for joining, and thanks again to Katie for taking time today. And I did pin our topics on the very bottom, the little comment on the bottom, so we can follow along as we go.
Sounds
So
good.
the first question, Katie, is if you could tell us a bit about your vegan journey, how how it all started, and how you got to where you are now. That would be cool.
Sure, sure. So it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll try to keep it kind of condensed. So actually, when I first got into veganism, it was about 10 years ago. Um, and it started just from feeling sick and not good in my body. Um, and at the time, I was about 230 pounds. And I'm pretty short, so that was like really heavy for me. And me and my boyfriend at the time, we went to Chicago and we ate an entire deep dish Chicago pizza. And so on the train ride home, I was like, oof, I got to do something because this is not working for me. So, yep. So it started with that. And I started watching YouTube channels on weight loss. And I was doing research on weight loss, how to get healthy. And I didn't know anything about veganism at the time. But I ran into David Wolf's videos and also Marcus Rothkranz, if I pronounced that right. They're
I
like,
know both names. Yep, I know both names.
yep. So they both inspired me so much when I first started. And when I started, I actually went 100% raw for 30 days. I just wanted to do a cleanse and try it out, you know. And what happened was I ended up losing 30 pounds in 30 days.
Oh
And
my.
it just happened so quickly. And I felt so like light and clean on the inside.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, and I don't know what that is, if that's maybe just hydration. I don't know. But like I would say it's similar to when you drink like a whole liter of water. When you first wake up in the morning, you have that like clean, like light feeling. And maybe it's hydration. I don't know. But anyway, so that first got me started on raw foods. And what happened was I was like, well, this is so great for 30 days. Like, let's just keep going with it. So I kept going for about 7 months. I was almost fully raw. Like, I probably had some spices and stuff. But anyway, so, and I lost a ton of weight and it was great. But looking back, you know, there wasn't the same information out then as there is now. And I didn't have support like I do now with people on my Instagram and social media and stuff. So it was hard. And I did actually go back to eating animal products, unfortunately. Um, and I never made that like vegan connection, like with the animals and everything too. But then about 6 years ago, after I gained all the weight back pretty much, and I started to feel crappy again, I actually decided, hey, I want to go vegan again. And I want to feel that good again and lose the weight again. And so then I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm going to watch all of these vegan documentaries. And I got real
Oh.
inspired for the animals too, and then also the environment. So that was pretty cool. I made that connection about 6 years ago. And then since then, I've been vegan, but have still struggled with weight and everything. But I guess that was kind of like, in short, my little story. So
Wow.
then since then, I've been like gradually trying to try different things and better myself and my diet and health practices and stuff.
Yeah, but that's why, well, first of all, I appreciate you being so honest about, your journey. And secondly, that's why I call it a journey because, there are kind of stops and starts, detours, highs and lows, all kinds of events that come, in the mix. And then, we have to kind of recalibrate and, figure it out, do some more
Right.
research, do some more internal searching, external searching to try to figure, okay, how am I going to restart this journey? Because I had to,
Right.
pause here for a moment. So, I really appreciate you like going into that level of detail because I think it's helpful for a lot of people too who are struggling, and especially I don't know how much like support you had in your inner circle, but a lot of people struggle with that too, where they don't have a lot of support from the people around them, and that makes it hard. And I know that was a part of my journey. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep, that can definitely be a struggle.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that was kind of where I started, and then I also started watching and listening to plant-based doctors too,
Oh
like
yeah.
Joel Furman,
Yeah.
the Nutritarian Diet, and then also like Dr. McDougall, Dr. Greger, and all of that started coming out at that time too, which 4 or 5 years ago I started hearing about it anyway, and that really helped kind of the education aspect of it, like constantly educate, like learning new things and keeping yourself inspired too. So that's kind of where I've, you know, shifted, I guess.
Yeah, and I love how you combine the education with inspiration because a lot of times I'm talking about, yeah, we need to do our research and keep learning. But I like how you actually added the inspirational aspect to it because I do feel like once we learn more, we are more inspired to do better. They say when you know better, you do better. So I do relate to what you're saying.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. If anyone has questions for Katie, please put them down below in the comment section, and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer those as we go along. And Katie, I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with the name Raw Vibrant Love?
So honestly, like I was just kind of looking for a name that kind of encompassed what I wanted to do with my page. And I had been brainstorming like on paper all these different names, and none of them really like sounded good to me. So, but I definitely wanted the word raw in there, so I kind of started with that word. And then vibrant, because I kind of wanted that to be my aesthetic, is like really bright, colorful, vibrant foods as like the inspiration part. Um, and then love, because when I first started the page back in May, it was kind of like a self love journey for myself, like to keep myself on track and say, hey, I mean, I was vegan back then too, but making not so good choices with my eating. And I wanted it to be kind of like a self love journey. Like, I'm going to make better decisions that are aligned more with what I truly want. And then, so that's kind of where the love came in to the.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Awesome. So I know that you already touched on weight loss on your journey. How did you decide to focus on the raw vegan aspect as a part of your diet and journey?
Right. So I guess I, that kind of came gradually,
Uh-huh.
but it's first started actually back in May. What happened was everything shut down. Like I was out of work. So I was like, okay, I have to get my weight back on track. I have to get my health back. And I was like, I'm going to work out every day. I have all this extra time. And so I was doing all this cardio and stuff and like walking like 7 to 10 miles and
Wow.
just crazy stuff, like trying to get, you know, like just use the time to my advantage. But anyway, so I went a little too hardcore and I actually sprained my ankle.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I'm
it was,
sorry to hear that. That's painful. Ooh.
yeah. And I wasn't even supposed to go to the doctor then, too, because they were like, don't come unless it's an emergency. And I was like, okay.
Ooh.
So I was off my foot for almost a month. And I was like, okay, I really have to focus in on the eating aspect because I can't do a whole lot of exercise with no foot. So yeah, I started researching and just I looked back because I had gotten to a lower weight before in those 10 years. It's been kind of like this up, with my weight, like kind of yo-yo. I want to say like yo-yo, but not really, because if you look over the long term, it is going down. But anyway, from year to year, it kind of goes up and down. But I was kind of looking at like what point of my vegan journey, like I had reached the lower weights and like what I was doing. And I actually did have a food journal for like that whole year that I was really doing well. And I just revisited that. I was looking like, what was I eating? Like, what was I doing? How much water was I drinking? I was tracking all of those things. And so I started researching and I came across this video about calorie density by Jeff Novick. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, no, I'll have to look that up. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's actually linked in my bio because I send so many
Ah,
people to
okay.
that video when
Cool,
they
cool,
ask about it. Yeah,
cool.
so it's a great video.
I have to interrupt you. I did click on your bio and I saw the video. And I was like, well, wait a second, that's not her page. So I got a little bit turned around, to be
I'm
honest.
sorry, yeah.
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
have
no.
YouTube yet.
Right, no. And I was like, that's not her. That's not her. So I don't know what happened here. All right, then I just kind of backed out of.
My bad. Yeah.
But now that you've explained it, I was like, all right, then I'm gonna have to give this another
False
go.
advertising.
No, 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 no. I'm gonna have to give that another go now that I
Yeah. That's funny. I do have aspirations to one day maybe make some videos, but
You will, you will.
too funny.
Oh my gosh. So calorie density. So tell us.
Yes. So that's kind of the main thing I've realized, like behind the weight loss portion of it. Like you don't have to eat raw food to eat low calorie dense foods. It's just typically like all raw food, most raw food is already low calorie density and it's non-processed. So you're getting rid of this whole group of foods that kind of can be problematic, if things get out of hand and all that. So I've found personally, like if I'm more raw, you have that like hydrated, light feeling inside, and you want to, keep eating that way. Whereas like if you kind of get out of balance and like if I start eating a lot of more cooked foods, I feel heavier and I feel myself being kind of addicted to them and, reaching for them more often than I should. And so it's kind of like finding that balance for me. So I guess the raw food to me is like what I think we're naturally supposed to eat. So that's kind of why I want to focus on that.
No, totally. And if you think about it, 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000 years ago, we didn't have this processed food, right?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
I mean, you're obviously right that this is what we should be eating, you know? I mean, we didn't have boxes of whatever, whatever with pretty photos on it and,
Yeah.
toys inside of it and gimmicks and all of that. We didn't have that hundreds of years ago. So you're totally right. And the whole point about the addiction, I've heard more than once recently that, even our gut biome, I guess, the bacteria, that's what's giving us those cravings. And the more we feed them, let's say processed foods, then those bacteria tend to become a little bit more dominant, a little bit louder. And that is why we tend to crave those processed foods or any particular type of, fatty foods or things like that. So, I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's coming across quite a bit recently. And there's so much, focus on raw foods. There's so much focus on, our gut biome and the good bacteria and the not so good bacteria and whatever we feed, they're the ones that are going to, multiply even more and kind of dictate, basically what we end up eating if we don't resist it and feed the good bacteria. So
Yeah, I've heard that. I think there's definitely probably something to that too.
I agree.
For sure. And like even like I've heard somebody say this. I want to say it was one of the plant-based doctors, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But they said like if you have a really calorie dense meal, or something really fatty, or like, I can't remember what the terminology was, but like for days after, you'll think about that meal. And I'm like, really? Like,
Days.
is that our gut biome? Like, maybe that's what that is. I don't know.
And there's the gut brain connection.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how, food creates our mood and all of that stuff's going on. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I know like when I eat a very heavy cooked meal, that's vegan, it I will get sleepy.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what's happening here? Why am I so tired? And if I eat a raw meal, I have like energy for days. I'm
Yeah.
just like bouncing. I have to like keep my feet planted on the ground. So it's I really think you're right in terms of you know monitoring and being a little bit more careful with what
Mm-hmm.
we eat for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Because I don't know. Some people, like the moderation thing works well for people, but like for me, it never has. So I find like a little bit is okay if I can keep control of it. But as soon as I feel myself like going down that, bad path, I have to
I
reel it back
agree.
in. Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah. Hi, guys. Thanks for everyone who's on the line here. And if you'd like to ask questions for Kate, please put them down in the comment section below, and she'll be happy to answer them as we go along. So tell us a bit about the recipes that you create, the inspiration behind your recipes. I love seeing, the little tips that you put. The one of my favorites recently was the pumpkin spice one because, quite honestly, and I didn't put this in my comment. I did comment, but I didn't put this in my comment. But I was looking for organic pumpkin spice in
Oh.
a bottle the other day in the supermarket, and they didn't have any, and so I just got like components of it. And then I saw that you had posted basically all of the components. It's like, yeah, I think I'm missing one or two, but oh well, oh
Yeah,
well,
close enough.
I'll just kind of just sprinkle them on anyway. So that was kind of cool that you did that. But anyway, if you could tell us what inspires your recipes, that you share with everyone.
Oh, sure. So I guess just like things that I want to eat, like I assume other people will want to eat. Um, a lot of things, it's like based on a food. Like for a while, like I was researching the benefits of beets, and I was real
Oh,
big into beets
wow. Yeah.
and how to incorporate them in a recipe. And so I came up with the red velvet beet smoothie or whatever. Just kind of like creative ways to eat foods that might not be as palatable, I guess, to start with. So stuff like that's fun. But I also like the hacks, like the make your own, pumpkin spice. Cause like I went to the store too, and around here they
Really?
all sold out, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"What's in pumpkin spice?" And I was like researching. I was like, "Okay, I'll just buy all this and make my own."
Yes,
So, yep.
yes, yes, yeah. I think I waited too late, maybe,
Oh,
because we're getting so close to the fall. Well, we are in fall now, but when I was kind of stocking up on my spices a few weeks ago, I guess, other people beat me to the punch kind of a thing. And so, there weren't like super large amounts of certain spices, and of
yeah.
course with all of the shipping delays and everything, I'm sure they just are having trouble keeping the shelves stocked. But yeah, I think what's really cool is that you make it practical too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I try to make it like something like a busy person could do. Like, because I'm busy too, like, especially now that, we're not shut down and everything. Like, I haven't been doing as many recipes and everything, but when I do, I try to make it something accessible, to everyone. So,
Totally, totally. So what do you say to naysayers and critics of our vegan diet and lifestyle? Because I love that you're laughing already because
sorry.
because obviously we get some, pushback, some resistance here and there. And
Yeah,
I'd love to hear how you handle that.
right. So personally, like, I wasn't always this way, but personally, I'm kind of like more of a live and let live type person now. You know, I've tried like explaining my diet to people before and they don't really want to hear it. So you know, that's when I shut down and I'm like, okay, that's fine, you know. So I figure like just lead by example, you know, and even like you can inspire people. Like my coworkers saw me, you know, come back to work and I was eating all this fruit and stuff, like just massive amounts of fruit. And they're like, girl, you're going to gain weight eating all those carbs. And I was like, I didn't say anything bad, but I was like, you know what, this is what works for me. And, you know, I'm just going to try it, you know. And then, you know, months later, I start losing all this weight. And they're like, wow, you know, and they're starting to think maybe there's something to my low carb diet that isn't working. And maybe the high carb isn't so bad, you know. And so I think if it's an idea that originates from them, like they're more likely to change. But, you know,
Good
I don't
point.
know. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So I figure like just inspire people that want to be inspired and, you know, and they can come to their own conclusion. But yeah, and usually like even if they don't go vegan, like it's totally fine. Like just eat more plants, eat less animals. I mean, even that's a step in the right direction. So if I could just do that, like I would be happy with that too.
I agree. And I love what you're saying, like lead by example. And it's almost like you're doing, you know, something that I love, the concept of like build it and they will come. So like
Hmm.
you've built and you've constructed your life in a certain way. And then when they're ready, they'll come to you.
Yeah,
And like the light bulbs will go off and they're like, oh yeah, right. Yeah, I think that yeah, there's something to what she's doing. Ah, it makes sense now. Oh, let me try it, you know?
right.
So I think that's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like my dad, he went vegan, I want to say like a year after I did. And at first he was real kind of resistant to it too, because he was talking about how, you know, fructose is bad and it's bad for your liver. And I don't know if you've seen any of these videos, but there's a lot of misinformation out there too. But once he saw like, you know, results and stuff, and then he started doing his own research about the plant based, and then, you know, it happened. So that
I
was really
love
cool.
that. I love that. And you're right. Like, you know, people hear sugar and they equate, you know, fructose or fruit sugar to the processed sugar that's in the box or the bag. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, sugar is bad. All sugar is bad. And it's like, no, no, no. This is the sugar that our bodies need for, you know, that our bodies use this sugar for fuel, you know.
Yeah.
This kind of sugar is not the processed sugar that has junk added to it, etc. You know,
Hmm.
and so there's so many misconceptions out there.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
true. Oh, well, that's such a beautiful story about your dad, though. I love
Thanks.
that. Yeah, awesome. And so this kind of links into the next you know topic that we want to discuss here, and that's what would be your advice to new vegans or you know folks who are vegan curious, vegan friendly. How do you kind of approach that you know group of people?
Sure. So I would say like definitely it's helpful the education part like we were talking about, like just watching a video a day to kind of like get the wheels turning in your head and kind of open your mind to certain things. The vegan documentaries, I know they're kind of scary, but they're good to watch for inspiration too. And I know they helped me, you know, not want to go back to the animal products, you know, like, because getting off of the, I don't miss the flavor or anything, but, you know, like sometimes they creep into our diet, you know, in small amounts, you know, and that's how I originally like accidentally went back into the animal products. It was like Thanksgiving or something. I started eating them again. And yeah, so, but now that I've seen those videos and I know, like, I have that knowledge, I can say, whoa, I don't really want to do this, you know? So it's kind of important to watch those too. But I would say, other than that, like, if you have like a vegan group or club or something near you, I would definitely join. I know when I first started raw food, there was like a neighboring town near me that had a raw food potluck. And I was like, ooh, score. Like that helped me stay raw for 7 months. Without that,
I
I don't know
love
that I would
it.
have made it. Yeah.
I
So
love that.
I would say groups. So you have that support for sure. And then education would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and I want to give a plug to the vegan film festival that's currently going on now. It started yesterday and it's going on until Saturday. And they have some amazing documentaries and films. I just watched four of them, and there are more than 20 of them in the whole festival. At
Oh,
least
wow.
In English there are more than 20, and then there are some in Spanish as well, and there's a Spanish package for those who are interested. And they're super powerful. They are so very intelligently made and very compassionately created. And I would really encourage anyone out there who is still having doubts about the ethical side of veganism. To really have a look over at Vegan Film Festival. They're on Instagram, Facebook, and I don't know where else, but and they still have tickets that you can buy, and it's a virtual film festival, so it's all online.
Oh, cool.
So I just want to give a plug because, like you said, and so many people have said this to me too. The you know, documentaries are so super powerful, and they play such a big role in why people decide to go vegan versus, let's say, what we would call plant-based, plant slan. Even if they're 100% plant-based, they may not necessarily have, you know, latched on to the ethical side of it that goes more
Mhm.
into the lifestyle of, you know, beauty products, skincare, clothing, furnishing, etc. And so that's super important as well. You know, that you brought that up. Yeah.
Mhm.
And one other thing that I really like that you brought up, oh, we do have a comment. I think we should go to this question
Oh.
first. So we have a question from Kathy50. Biggest tip to someone trying to go raw. Thanks there, Kathy50, for the question. And we'll hear from Katie.
So I would suggest going raw to transition. Like what I did was I started just replacing one meal a day with all raw foods. So like for breakfast, instead of oatmeal, I would have a big fruit bowl or whatever. And then I gradually like, you know, started moving into lunch. Okay, lunch I had a big raw salad instead of soup or whatever. And then dinner I would have my cooked heavier meal. So I found that's the easiest way is kind of to eat the raw foods in the beginning of the day and then, you know, eat your denser meal at night. That's kind of what helped me anyway. And I gradually incorporated more and more raw foods until I was eating like all raw. I mean, except for the first time when I first went raw and I just went 100% raw like overnight. But yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I would add, you know, to that, smoothies are really super cool too. And, you know, if you have access to a blender, it's really great to, you know, put loads of, you know, fresh fruits and vegetables in there, some superfood powders, some spices are awesome, some herbs. You could even put, you know, I put like instead of water in my smoothie, sometimes I put herbal tea that I already had brewing, kind of just,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
waiting there to be sipped during the day. And I'll put that, you know, that herbal tea in the smoothie instead of water, so that, you know, that kind of gives it a boost as well in terms of nutrients and flavor. Although it's not that much water, of course, in smoothies oftentimes, but I'll definitely say, you know, look into some smoothies. There are lots of yummy raw soup recipes out there as well that are, you know, super cool. Adding herbs and spices to kind of warm them up energetically, I guess is how I would put it, and not necessarily temperature wise, but energetically. You know, the herbs and spices add quite a bit of warmth to raw soups. And then of course, if people are into juicing, that's awesome too. You know, do your fresh juices, fruits and vegetables. And of course you can then, if you want to kind of make use of the pulp from the juices, then, you know, I guess you could look into a dehydrator to make, you know, crackers and burgers and things like that. Or some people do it on like a really low heat in their ovens, and they're able to, you know, make very close to raw, you know, food items using the pulp. So it depends on how much you want to do in terms of equipment, in terms of the different options in your raw diet. But there's definitely a lot out there, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good tip about the smoothie too. Because another thing I was gonna say is try to eat a lot more than you typically would think you would need to eat. Because that's one reason when I first went raw, like I transitioned back into animal products is because I wasn't eating enough and it was hard. So I think smoothie, that's a great tip. Like definitely you could pile in all the fruits and stuff in there.
Totally, totally. Yeah, yeah. And that's a good point too. And I've heard this before, that some people, especially at the beginning, they just don't realize how low in calories fruits and vegetables are.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I approach that for my personal consumption is I add nuts and seeds. So the nuts and seeds bring up the calorie count, bring up the energy, the energy punch to what I'm eating, and so it brings in some healthy fats and more calories and nutrients and flavors and textures and everything, that makes it more interesting. And that's another thing too. Like, for me, one of my philosophies in life is variety is the spice of life. So, bringing in so many different fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, all of that just makes it more interesting rather than the same old
Oh
everyday
yeah.
kind of a thing, because we get a little bit bored sometimes, and that also discourages people from sticking to a certain way of eating or living as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. I'm trying to like get creative too because I know winter's coming up for me and raw food in the wintertime. Like, I don't have a lot of experience doing a lot of raw in the wintertime. So I just bought like a bunch of different like ebooks and I'm going to print them off and put them in a binder and like try to do some more raw, expand my horizons on the raw food in the wintertime thing. So,
Totally,
yeah.
totally. I mean, I see your point. Like, it is harder, definitely. I know last winter, I was basically adding more warm soups,
Hmm.
like not necessarily the raw soups, but especially if I were, if eating out, more raw soups. So definitely I can see that whole warmth. And then I figured out, the whole spices and herbs kind of an angle to take as well. So
Hmm.
yeah, I would definitely kind of, like you say, experiment and just see what tickles your fancy, see what you
Yeah.
like. Mm-hmm.
Try new recipes for sure.
Definitely. Yes. Yes. So thank you there, Kathy 50. And so tell us, Katie, some of your current and future offerings and projects.
So future offerings and projects, let's see. I would love to eventually do some sort of like meal plan or recipe book just to get people started on more raw and boosting your weight loss because I did follow like certain protocol to get where I am this year anyway. So that like a guide of some kind would be really nice to offer people. Also, I think like maybe a Facebook group or some kind of like page where people can support each other, and we can, share tips or, talk about different topics. That would be really cool to start as well. So that's
I
I
hear
don't
you.
have concrete
Those
plans.
are two. No, no, no. Those are two projects that I'm also working on. So
Oh,
I love that. I love that. I participate in a lot of Instagram lives, and there's so many people who just don't even know where to start,
yeah.
or who are like isolated. They don't know any other vegans, and they just feel super alone, quite frankly, and I mean, some of the comments are super like super sad, because it's like,
Mm.
and now with the holidays coming up, and I'm going to be talking more about the holidays too, because the holidays are the
Oh, yeah.
holidays are tough. The holidays are tough. The holidays are tough for vegans,
Yeah.
and I know you mentioned something about Thanksgiving, just when we were talking a few minutes ago, um, And so I'm sure whatever you're going to be posting coming up to, next month and Thanksgiving will be helpful because it's a tough season,
Yeah, it's
the
so
uh
hard.
the family gatherings and I kind of have a couple of videos I'll be putting out about just kind of thoughts basically about how basically as vegans I guess we need to ramp up the recipes that we feel comfortable creating and sharing with others, not just showing up basically to gatherings at this time of year because we may not find anything to eat.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's a good opportunity to share, those yummy dishes with people who are still on the standard diet. So, of course,
Hmm.
whoever's taking the dish, they get a bunch of yummy food to eat. They share it with others, and they don't even have to know that it's vegan. It just tastes
Yeah.
great, and they'll be like, "Wow, what's that? Can I get a recipe?"
Yeah, exactly. Yep, I love that. It's kind of nice since my dad's vegan. Like I always cook a vegan Thanksgiving for us, and he'll eat everything, so it's nice.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, if you have questions, please put them down below. And Katie will be happy to answer them as we go along. So Katie, what's the best way for people to contact you for collaborations or anything they want to discuss with you? What's the best way?
Sure. So you can DM me at Raw Vibrant Love on Instagram. I do have an email too. I don't know that I don't really use it, but it's rawvibrantlove@gmail.com. So that would be another way.
Cool, cool. So I see we still have a few people in here. So if you have any questions or comments for Katie, please feel free to put them down below. We have about a few minutes left. I wanted to come back to maybe the whole weight loss aspect because I think that's something that really attracts a lot of people's attention. And I want to maybe ask you to, give us a little bit more in terms of, I guess, a few of the main changes you made
Yeah.
that really made the biggest difference for you in terms of weight loss, because it is a very big topic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I would say, like, first of all, anybody struggling with weight, that you should just know it's not your fault because it's our food supply, honestly. So that's the first thing. Like, don't get too down on yourself because honestly, like, the food, and if you watch the calorie density video in my bio, like, it'll all be explained. But basically, like, with the foods we eat now, processed food that has oil in it, um, biologically we're designed or, evolved, I guess, to seek out these calorie dense sources, no matter what it is, like cooked, processed, whatever, we will naturally gravitate towards the most dense food available. So just putting that out there, like once you realize that and know that, it's easier to make better choices. But for me anyway, like I'm still always fighting that. So that's something to be aware of. And then also, like, it takes time because a lot of people tell me, you know, I want to lose it real fast. And you should just know, like I said, my weight goes like this every year. But like if you look at the trend, like it's like the stock market, it goes like this. Well, you want the stock market,
I was gonna say, yeah, no,
but
maybe not.
it's like the opposite of the.
Ooh, yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
But yeah, zoom out and look at the big picture, I guess is what I'm saying for that. So as far as like weight loss protocol that I did, that really helped me. Number one is focusing on more raw foods. So I try to stay, and in the summertime it's higher and in the wintertime it's lower, but I try to stay around like 70, 80, 90% raw, depending on time of the year. That will naturally let you, maintain like that lower calorie density food, and you will naturally just release weight. That's great. I also did intermittent fasting to boost my results. So what I would do is basically not eat until noon, and then my lunch would be all fruit. So like an all fruit diet for lunch. And then if I'm hungry, like I would just have fruit for snacks too. So that really, because fruit is so like water rich, and it is still like low density, but it's not like you're eating celery sticks. Like it does have energy in it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so you
Oh,
can
yes.
actually like live on fruit if you wanted to, like, and a lot of people do. Um, so I do that for the first part of the day, and then my last meal of the day is the heaviest one. It's usually a big salad with some sort of fat for the dressing. Not super crazy like amounts of fat, but I'll put some tahini in there so I get my healthy fats, and then some flaxseed. And then if I'm still hungry, I'll do like steamed potatoes, or in the wintertime, I might do some steamed broccoli or something like that. Um, but yeah, I am going to experiment a little bit with the raw soups, like you said, and like more spices in the
Yes.
wintertime, because I think that would be a nice addition. And yeah, I would like to be as raw as possible in the wintertime, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, honestly. It really does add some heat to it.
Hmm.
Like I say, energetically, not temperature wise.
Yeah.
But and honestly for me too, like adding apple cider vinegar to my recipes, like let's say sauces, dressings, soups, even smoothies, you can add apple cider vinegar. I guess it's the tartness or the savory flavor that's, you know, added in there. And for me, it kind of warms up my palate, quite frankly.
Oh,
And so besides the herbs and spices, and so that's something that I found that, you know, I find it to help out in terms of, you know, this whole raw business. And then my other comment is like I don't like putting food in the refrigerator. So I know we have another question here about how do you keep enough fruit and vegetables in the house. And in terms of raw and in terms of the actual temperature, I personally don't like putting my produce in the refrigerator. So that also kind of, you know, keeps it warmer, quote unquote, in terms of, you know, you don't have that cold temperature, you know, and let's say, you know, the outside temperature drops, you know, the weather's changing and everything. For me, it's very helpful to keep my produce at room temperature. So that's how I kind of address the whole issue of, oh my gosh, it's too cold in the winter to eat raw. You
yeah,
know?
that's a good tip. Yeah, definitely keep it outside, or at least put it out of the refrigerator a couple hours or something beforehand if you can. Yeah, that's a good tip.
Exactly. So how do you keep enough fruit and vegetables in the house? Asked Kathy the 50.
Oh my, that's a good one. I usually go shopping. I want to say like 2 to 3 times a week sometimes if I'm eating a lot of raw. It's hard to keep them in the house, but thankfully where I live, like there's grocery stores everywhere, so I can kind of just get fresh stuff when I need it. So I guess that's not real convenient. Yeah, I would say, but like a good tip though is buy in bulk seasonal fruits. Definitely you want to stick to seasonal, and so I would definitely try to buy in bulk when you can, that kind of stuff.
Totally. And I'm similar. I don't buy in bulk, but I am similar in terms of what you're saying. Like for me, going to the supermarket more frequently is just a part of my routine
Hmm.
because having fresh fruits and vegetables, and again, because I'm not big on freezing stuff and putting, you know, freezing food and putting food in the refrigerator and things like that. I personally like to have like a kind of a frequent fresh flow coming in, so to speak, as much as I can. So I can see your point about, you know, more frequent trips to the supermarket. I think because when we're on a standard processed diet, it's so easy with packaged foods, you know,
Hmm.
they are shelf stable. You put them in your, you know, your pantry, and they can last for months and years, you know. So when you're dealing with packaged processed foods, it's another ball game. It's
Hmm.
just it's not the same as eating fresh fruits and vegetables that Kathy 50 is asking about. So we definitely, in my opinion, we cannot approach it in the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
And I personally love seeing like the new produce come in. Like, oh my gosh, now there's this coming in, and there are these new, veggies in. Oh, the pears are in now, and
Yeah.
the apple, all the, like 4 or 5 different apples are in now, and 4 or 5 different pears are in now. So for me, it's nice to see like the change in season.
And you can like kind of figure out which days your store has sales too, I found.
I
Because I always
love
go on
that.
a certain night, at a certain time, and I can get the good stuff, and there's not a lot of people around. So, yeah, that's always a good thing.
That's an awesome tip. I love that. All right. I don't see any more questions. So is there anything else you wanted to share with us today, Katie?
Um, I'm trying to think. I would just say like another tip would be like food prep because a lot of times if you come home from work and you worked a full day and you're just hungry, it's so easy to just drive and go get takeout somewhere. Where like if you have something delicious prepared already in advance or you have the ingredients like readily available and you can just throw it together real quick, you can stay on your diet. You can stay on track. And I would say another thing too is like that helped me a lot was like finding your why and really, yeah, really like focusing and like writing down like all the reasons why you want to eat a certain way or why you want to do what you're doing and revisit that, often. And that has really helped me stay on track too. Like, am I eating this because I, actually want nourishment from it, or am I eating this for pleasure or because I'm bored? You can ask yourself why too. Like, why are you doing this? But then also, like, why do you want, to be vegan and eat this way?
Totally. Alkaline Electric Brown German says, love the sales too. Yeah, that was a good tip. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, and you mentioned let's see. Oh, she's making a little smiley. Yeah, there was something you were just saying about obviously the why, and then just before that you were talking about, yes, prep. And one of the tips that people often think of is having like backup recipes, like your favorites, like a few of your favorites, like your go-to's, where like you're saying, if you get home late for whatever reason and you don't have much time, it's really cool like to have your backup recipes, or I think it
Yeah.
goes back to the question earlier from Kathy 50 about having fruits and vegetables in the house. Like for me, that's very important. And so for me, a meal could be a few fruits with some nuts and seeds. Like for me, that's a super yummy meal.
Hmm.
And I know there are others like me out there. So if you're that type of person, or to have enough fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds to make a really yummy smoothie very quickly. That won't take much time, as Katie was referencing. If you're kind of short on time for whatever reason. So I think like having some backup ideas in terms of, oh yeah, so my go-tos are smoothies or a fruit bowl, or whatever the case might be. If you love, I don't know, sautés, or the other day someone said he always has, I don't know, like something like a bunch of rice on hand,
Oh,
or right, and kind of just be able to whip up something really quickly, I guess, with veggies and everything, because obviously he and his family are vegan. And so yeah, I think it's just kind of having those backup plans. I
yeah,
agree
for
with
sure.
you.
For
Uh,
sure. For me, I guess it's like I always have potatoes in my house just because if I come home and I had a stressful day or something, it will keep me like just air frying some potatoes and making fries with my salad will keep me from going, and driving to somewhere and getting takeout or something. So I mean, I just do what works for me and I just have that backup plan. But like, I don't want to have like necessarily junk food potatoes in my house, but you know, whole potatoes that you have to actually cook and stuff. But yeah, that's a little tip that I use too.
Yeah, and I love that because you're keeping it clean and lean, and the whole air fryer, concept is really like super popular. One of the one of the vegans I follow, he posted something about air fried zucchini today. Well, they call it courgettes on the other side of
Oh
on the
yeah.
ocean, but he did some air fried zucchini today. That he, well, at least he shared it today, and so like that, like you're saying, something that is clean, lean. It's not full of junk,
And you can make it
and
fast.
so definitely that sounds like a good idea. We have another question here. What is your go-to dressing for your salads? Caffeine 50.
Oh, right. So my favorite dressing is a tahini-based dressing. And I need to like figure out the measurements so I can post a recipe, but it's basically tahini, apple cider vinegar, a little bit of nutritional yeast. Yes.
I love apple cider vinegar.
So good. And then I add garlic powder and onion powder and
Oh,
coconut aminos.
that's very rich. Wow.
It's delicious.
Wow, you sure know how to fix that up. And I mean, and you're covering all your bases too with that,
Hmm.
because you're getting your fermentations obviously with the apple cider vinegar and that kind of bitter tart flavor, but then you're also getting, like you're saying, the nutritional yeast, the tahini, like you're getting your good fats and your proteins and everything in there. So I love that. I love that
Oh yeah.
recipe. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely need a good dressing for the salads.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So Kathy 50 says yummy. I agree. Super yummy.
I'll figure out the ratios and like post it someday. I just
you
throw it
know,
in a blender and whoosh, yeah.
that is kind of tricky, because not only that, but like let's say we say a quarter teaspoon of, I'm just gonna make this up, a quarter teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, but like I personally might like a half a teaspoon or 1 teaspoon, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me it's kind of tricky, and I
Yeah.
often wonder, like when I do put out recipes, I'm wondering, well, do I put, a range? Because I think that's how I'm gonna approach it when I start to put out recipes. Like, I'm just
Hmm.
gonna put a range, because it really depends. It's just like the garlic
Yeah.
situation. Um, I made a dish several months ago, and for a cooking course. It was a raw vegan cooking course, and I made like a pesto,
Ooh.
and I just loaded it up with garlic. And someone who was in the class, she said, "Oh my gosh, like that's like more garlic than I've had in like a year or something like that."
That's hilarious. And
And
raw garlic is powerful too.
it was raw. It was raw, yes, and super powerful. And
So good
so
for
I can
you.
understand. But she did say, but she's just really not much of a garlic person.
Oh, that's funny.
So the thing is that it just depends on the person. And so for me, that's why you kind of have to dial it down, or ramp it up depending on your
Hmm.
own preferences and palate. So
Oh
definitely
yeah, for sure.
I can, that's kind of, for me, that's the trickiest part of sharing recipes, quite frankly. But
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I don't know how many times like I've gone home and like remade a recipe because I'm not confident on my ratios. I'm like, wait a minute, is that work? And I have to put a range. I end up putting a range anyway. So yeah, I'm with you on that for sure.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. So we just have a few more minutes. So I'm gonna ask you, and first of all, I want to thank everyone who joined today, who asked questions, comments, smiley faces, everything. Thank you so much, and I will post the replay. And Katie, I'm just gonna ask you to close us out with whatever message you want to leave us with today.
Let's see. I think I said most of what I wanted to say, but just to reiterate, like that, if you struggle with your weight, that it's not your fault, and we are built to seek out calorie dense sources. And then just telling you to all watch the calorie density video in my bio because it is really powerful with when it comes to weight loss. And like when I saw that video, it everything made sense. And I was like, okay, that's why, you know, when I was eating this way, I lost weight. And what I was eating now, I am not losing weight. And I figured out from there. But also, like, you know, you have to do what works for you as well. So, you know, if, like, for some people, if they have to have a cheat meal, you know, or incorporate some animal products sometimes, you know, to stay on their diet, you know, that's okay. Like, don't look at it as a negative thing. Look at it as you're making steps in the right direction. And, you know, and I'm talking to myself here too, because so many times that I've messed up and eaten something, you know, processed or whatever. You know, when I was on vacation, I didn't eat the best. And I think I did post about that quite a bit. So, but yeah, when you do mess up, like, just, you know, accept it and move on. Like, don't beat yourself up about it.
Self-compassion. I love that you are ending on that note, because on our vegan journey, obviously we are trying to be as compassionate as we can for, you know, human and non-human animals and for the planet and our own health. But sometimes, you know, like you say, if we slip up, then it's so important to be compassionate towards ourselves, you know, and that
Mm-hmm.
nobody's perfect. And somehow, you know, there was someone who made a comment the other day. She's a vegan, super famous woman, and she was saying something like, you know, if you walk on the grass, you might end up, you know, squashing an insect or something, you know, by accident. You don't do it on purpose. You're just walking on the grass, you know, or something like that. So I think,
Right.
you know, kind of giving yourself a break, you know, cutting yourself a little bit of slack here and there. I think it's super important.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, Katie. We
Oh,
have some hearts coming in here for you. And I have now the Instagram remaining time of 1 minute and 53
oh.
seconds, which means I need to save it. So thank you so much,
Oh,
Katie.
thank you for having
And
me.
thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, and to everyone who watched and also who's going to watch the replay. And we'll be in touch, Katie. And thanks so much again, and have a great Sunday.
Oh, thanks. You too. Thanks so much
Thank
for having
you.
me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
See ya.
bye.